Which here it is, the first proper geographical relocation on this year's race, jumping south to start from Alcañiz and heading further south into Valencia via a single third category climb to the beautiful coastal town of Peniscola. 6 riders in the day's break, no GC contenders, and only 2 men who made the time cut yesterday. Luis Angel Mate of Cofidis and Cannondale's David Villela, who interestingly was the last man who did 71st on stage 15. The pardoned riders with the fresher legs were Lampre's Mario Costa, BMC's Sylvain Dillier, Sven-Erik Bistrom of Katusha and Julien Maurice of Direct Energy. And things are pretty stable in the main field behind them as we join Ned and David for commentary.
Ten kilometres to go. Pete Kenyon and Team Sky lead them all through. The sprinters' trains, for the time being, content just to lurk a little bit further back. A group of 3 or 4 IM cycling riders in about 30th or 40th wheel, and for the moment it's the GC teams primarily who have the front of the race. Manuel Ibuaro looking over his both shoulders actually to see where Alberto Contador is, and no visible sign of any more Tinkoff riders towards the front end of the race. At the moment it is Team Sky who have control, and Kenyon has been setting a really brutal pace.
They all are. I mean, you can see the motivation they have there. It's actually, to be fair, it's often where we see Team Sky. Yesterday was a true anomaly, regards what we expect to see and what are accustomed to see from Team Sky, and this is what we're more accustomed to see. Similarly from Tinkoff, it's they're 2 of the big GC teams. Movistar are sitting quite pretty behind that, obviously completely in control as they seem to have been this whole race. A little bit more scattered, but I think they know what they're doing. As you can be a little bit more relaxed when your team leader, who's leading the race, has over 3 minutes on second place, and when second place is Chris Froome, that's significant. And I think their riding style is showing that.
Yes, indeed. As we look down on Peniscola from the sky, from the sea. Salvatore Puccio on the front. And there is a degree of making good, I think, on yesterday's showing. Christian Knees, also one of the riders, been sent up to the front from Team Sky.
So that's one of the only corners they have to tackle in this final. So that's goes to show how technical it is. This one, and they go down a while longer, and then they do the 2 similar left-handers to come back up along the coast, along the promenade, if you like.
Still, no sign yet of Etixx Quick-Step moving to the front. You would imagine that they will be the team to try and take control of this. There's the white jersey of Chris Froome. He's sitting in about 6th wheel, just poking out from that line. No sign of the red jersey just yet towards the front.
Something that is impressive to see, just a couple of riders behind Chris Froome, is Alejandro Valverde in the green jersey for Movistar, who, even in the position he's in, after all the racing he's done, he finished on the podium in the Giro d'Italia, was up there constantly in the Tour de France, and now he's here, he's off the GC, he's not competing in the sprint, he's still sitting up there, right at the front, doing his job, and it's a credit to him and his commitment to the team and what they're trying to achieve here, that he is up there, because he doesn't have to be after losing 11 minutes on Saturday. He could give himself a rare day off.
Not really in his nature, is it, I don't think? Giant Alpecin visible now in the centre of the road. Nikias Arndt, stage winner this year on the Giro d'Italia of stage 21. Quite capable of going deep into a Grand Tour and getting a result, as he proved on that occasion. And Lotto Soudal, the team in the red on the right-hand side of the road, just challenging the emerging train of Team Giant Alpecin in the middle of the road.
That's him just giving the motorbike a little indication of his elbow. What will happen as we enter into the 3rd week of stage race? Riders will just drift off in these final few Ks like this. They'll just give themselves a rest. They don't have to do so much work. It's when it really winds up into the terminal velocity, if you like, approaching the finish. Riders will just a little splinter off like this, spin their legs. Instead of doing a warm down at the finish, they do treat these last few kilometres as a warm down.
About 3 Tinkoff riders just gapping there, falling off the back, and I noticed one of the first to go as well was David Lopez in that first group that you spotted there, David, and that would be understandable from his point of view, the work that he did yesterday.
Well, he tried to do a whole team's work yesterday, so it's not. He's one of the first Team Sky dropped off there.
And of course his time in the general classification of absolutely no consequence to him whatsoever. So they turn right-handed now and then sharply left-handed and then follow that long snaking road almost to the horizon to where that hill is, at which point they will turn left twice and then their route will take them back up that beachfront road to the finish, they're running parallel to that finish line in the opposite direction, if that makes sense. 6.5 to go.
So that flag there, there's barely any wind, so that's not going to have much an effect in the sprint, so that does alter it slightly as well, because this could have been a very tactical sprint if it had been a crosswind or a headwind, but they're getting to feel that now because they know, as you said, they're going parallel. They know whatever the wind direction is in here, it will be the opposite when they're coming up the finish line, but that's not something they have to deal with today.
Dimension data. Jakob Venter in second wheel. I think it's Omar Fraile actually doing a lot of work on the front. Christian Spirali is their man, the Italian sprinter today. 4th place on stage 12. He won stage 10 of last year's Vuelta, which is his, I think, first and only professional win to date. So he likes this race, and he's getting closer. And clearly his team want to back him today. Jakob Venter moving him towards the front. But still Giant Alpecin have it, as they pass within 6 kilometres now. And that vista there, the famous landmark of Peniscola, the peninsula itself, I understand was the location where the last series of Game of Thrones was shot. Not something I've ever watched, David, but you're nodding as if you know what I'm talking about.
Only because I know Series 6 was also filmed in Girona, where I live, so they must have made it a bit of a Spanish scene.
They've done a deal with the Spanish government, clearly.
It's created from 150 million-year-old rocks, which I presume most rocks are made of similar age. I'll get shot down for that, like my cliffs, no doubt.
You just need to stay away from geology and you'll be safe, David. Right, back to the race. Giant Alpecin on the front. Nicky Assange, you can see in the closed aero helmets towards the back. And Team Lotto Soudal working for Tosh van der Sande, one would imagine. But this is often the case when these teams come without their absolute A-list sprinters. They might have 2 or 3 within the team, as we saw with Orica Bike Exchange, where they could have either ridden the other day for Jens Kukalera or Magnus Cort Nielsen on that day where there was a bit of a selection. So they're a good example of a team who might, if they want to contest this stage win today, have 1 or 2 options they could use and ride for.
Yeah, exactly. This is often the Vuelta a España serves as a real opportunity for some of those younger riders who often are at the they're at the disposal of the A riders in their team, so they do, and they'll swap around those roles, and hence why it's quite difficult to predict who's going to do what, because you'll have one that sprints one day who will lead out another. They'll change their lead outs around. They'll be experimenting with things. That's one of the great things about the Vuelta, and we often see riders that we haven't seen before really come to the fore here.
Does it in any sense devalue a win on the Vuelta, would you say? I mean, a win's a win on a Grand Tour, isn't it?
Not at all, because often those riders are the ones that we then see really come out. And, for example, Tom Dumoulin and Chavez last year at the Vuelta a España. We didn't really know much of them before. We knew of them, we knew they were great riders, but then it was here at the Vuelta a España that we really saw them come of age. And that's what we will see again this year.
4K to go. And that is a reduced peloton. Little groups have just eased off the back and allowed themselves a bit of respite. That can't happen, though, for the main GC riders. They're still in the mix towards the front of the race. They're thinking about the point at 3 kilometres to go, and after they pass that mark, if there is a mechanical or an accident, but only in those situations that splits the peloton, they'll be given the same time as the winner. If, however, there's a natural split that occurs in the peloton, well, they still have to race to hold the wheels. That doesn't keep them safe.
And you'll see again they're coming up to another one of those big roundabouts, and at this point in the race it's critical to have had that reconnaissance from a lead car to know whether to take the left side or the right side, because it can cost you 20 or 30 positions if that roundabout is one side of the road takes a slightly longer route, and you'll often see riders get really caught out by that.
Lotto Jumbo moving to the front, setting the pace with one rider, Team Dimension Data and Giant Alpecin, the 2 most prominent teams, and now a glimpse of the blue of Gianni Meersman's team, Ethics Quickstep. Stage win yesterday with Gianluca Brambilla, and before that with another climber, David de la Cruz, and in the early salvo of stages on this year's Vuelta, 2 stage wins for Gianni Meersman, and thereafter more today, clearly.
And now they're inside the 3 kilometres, the GC riders can relax a little bit. They won't fight quite as hard to be in that first 15, 20 riders, but they still have to be very aware. This is one of the last roundabouts that goes straight before they're going to turn to a left soon, and they'll start that left, right, left into the finishing straight.
The teams are a little bit scattered around here, aren't they? There's pockets of riders. Team Giant Alpecin are sliced in half. They've got 2 riders in the front, and then 2 Dimension Data riders sitting on their wheel, and then they've got 2, and one of the Tinkoff riders is going for a long one. Daniele Benatti, the domestique, the former sprinter, pushing on, and he's got himself a couple of seconds advantage, but he's got a long way to
see
hold
what happens
on.
to the peloton here. It kind of thins it out slightly, puts it on one long line, so as you said, it then puts the teams in disarray to then bring themselves back together. That's a great move by him. it's optimistic, but Benatti is one of the, if that is Benatti, I believe it is, definitely looks like him.
Well, if it is Benatti, yes. Yeah, that is Benatti, yeah, absolutely. And he's got 2 kilometres to hold on. He used to win a bunch sprint in years gone by, and actually he's been quite competitive recently in bunch sprints this season. But he's decided this isn't for me, and this is my best way of winning, and he's got himself a 4-5 second advantage. They're going to have to work to close the gap, and surely if they had a plan A, we're anticipating a clear run-in, this has put the cat amongst the pigeons somewhat.
Yes, it has, and I'm sure that's just one of those moves. You're there and you see it and you go. It's very hard to plan a move like that, because you have to really read the situation, see what the lead-outs are doing, decide if it's got any chance whatsoever. And you might have been up there and see there was no very strong lead-out planned, that was his best opportunity to just seize that moment as it appeared, because it can disappear equally as fast. But look at the speed the peloton's gone now. For the first time in a little while, it's now strung out completely. So the lead-outs have begun well and truly, because they know they have to get into these corners first. So this like narrows road, the left and the left. When they come out of there, it's going to be quite strung out. And if you're in bad position there, it's going to be very difficult to move back up again.
Here we go, closing in on the final kilometre. Benatti takes them round. He's still got a few seconds advantage over the chase now, which is being led by Etixx Quick-Step. Through 1 kilometre now, onto the beachfront, a long straight line. And they haven't got to him yet. There's Alejandro Valverde, the green jersey, in 4th wheel, but still Benatti is going away, if anything, from the rest.
That's a great ride by Alejandro Valverde. Again, an optimum. He's pulled off now, so he can't hold that quick-step train. So he's pulling off. He's realised he's going too far in the deep, so he's not going to cause splits. So he'll pull off and let them close that gap.
But it's a flat-out sprint for Etixx Quick-Step to get onto Benatti's wheel. They will get to him, will they? I think they've probably got the strength and number. Nikias Arndt is sitting on the wheel of the lead-out that's being delivered by Etixx Quick-Step. Gianni Meersman is not far behind him.
The little lull, that's perfect. So that goes to show that the sprint is on its wheel. So Benatti just had a little moment there. And look, they realise that Etixx Quick-Step behind riders had to go, because he's run out of lead-out man, and he has to go after Benatti and use him as a lead-out man.
I tell you, he's looking very strong here, and that's BMC's Jompi Drucker just sitting on the wheel of the Etixx Quick-Step man. Drucker now opens up his sprint, heading for the line. Jompi Drucker, is he going to get there first? It's going to be Drucker who takes the win. I think Arndt was close for second place, but the win goes to BMC. Their teammates celebrate. Benatti opened things up, created all sorts of confusion. Meersman was blocked out. Etixx Quick-Step didn't get their 3rd sprint victory. Instead, it goes to that man, Jompi Drucker from BMC. So that was not what we were expecting at all, I don't think.
No, it wasn't, but you have to say, Daniel Benatti read that perfectly. He saw there weren't strong enough lead-outs out there. He decided to go himself, and he was proved right, because they ran out of lead-outs before they could get to him, and the sprinters themselves had to hit out earlier than they would have done normally and try and bring him down. Otherwise, it was nobody who was going to win that. Daniel Benatti was. And Drucker rode it perfectly, stayed calm. He let the others do it for him.
He's powerful as well, and when he gets going, it's a big diesel sprint that he's got, and he can sustain the power for a long time, the Luxembourger Jean-Pierre Drucker.
And he's a rider who, exactly like we were just saying before, he's coming to the fore now. This would be one of his first biggest wins, and he's had some decent wins, but now it's a Grand Tour stage win. That's a real coming of age for him.
Well, his biggest win by far, Jean-Pierre Drucker from Luxembourg and from BMC. They've held the red jersey with Darwin Atapuma, and now they've got themselves a stage win.
There's the result. Drucker from Zelig, Arndt, Meersman, Monzan, Van Genechten, Speragli, Reinen, Van der Sande and Restrepo. In other words, a reprieved rider from 9 other reprieved riders. The Sticklers winner, that is to say the first man across the line who was inside the elimination time yesterday, was Esteban Chavez in 14th. Not that you'd ever get the bookies to pay out on that basis. He was with the other favourites in a large group 2 seconds behind the winner. And also in there was Daniele Benatti, who nearly stole the stage.
Avevo speso un po' anche per tenere I miei compagni davanti, poi ho deciso di fare questa azione, ci avevo quasi creduto. Mi dispiace un po' perché la curva, quella prima dell'ultimo chilometro, la moto della TV ha rallentato praticamente tantissimo. Io sono ripartito da fermo e poi rilanciare a 60 all'ora non è facile.
È stata forse la differenza, no? Tra vittoria e...
Sì, sono mancati 100 metri, ma vabbè, è normale che le squadre Etixx sono molto forti e vedevo che c'erano loro in testa. Io ho cercato di tenere duro, ma è mancato 100 metri, non è poco, però ci ho provato e sarebbe stata una bella vittoria così a sorpresa.
Now, we didn't hear from Jan Bakelants at the start this morning, but he heard plenty from his fellow riders after posting a tweet saying that yesterday's reinstatement was a bit like race fraud.
Was it a big topic of conversation in the peloton today?
Well, big topic. I got some reaction on it on the tweet. Some guys were not happy with it, clearly. Other guys say, yeah, actually, we think you're right. This is always in cycling, we never stand united, and I can understand in this we stand not united. It's sending them home would be rather a weird decision for these 93 riders.
Very weird. Jumpy Drucker could have been sitting at home by now, watching himself win the sprint.
The main goal was actually to win a stage, and now I did it, so I have no stress anymore. And with Madrid, a bunch sprint probably again. So I'm gonna take my chance. But yeah, first of all, it's rest day tomorrow, and then again a big block of mountains.
Now, since Jumpy Drucker mentioned the rest day, let's wrap up the standings in the various competitions leading into it. Kenny Elissonde currently has the polka dot jersey by 8 points from last year's winner, Omar Fraile, but there are still 53 points to race for. Alejandro Valverde is still on course to be on the podium in Madrid, despite having fallen off it in the overall standings, because he leads the points classification, although Nairo Quintana could deprive him of it as a byproduct of defending his red jersey. And defend it is all he really needs to do now, thanks to yesterday's attack.
¿Es claro a partir de ahora, de aquí al final, donde vaya Froome va Nairo?
Sí, no solo Froome, está Contador, que siempre he dicho que aunque esté lejos no podemos descuidarle un segundo, y Froome igualmente.
So here's a final check on the overall standings. 3 minutes 37 is Quintana's lead over Chris Froome. Esteban Chaves is at 3:57 with Alberto Contador at 4:02, 5 seconds from a podium place. Simon Yates is 1 minute and 5 from Contador and will be using the rest day to get over today's crash. Samuel Sanchez is the second home rider in the top 10. Andrew Talansky has ridden himself up the standings through the mountains of the second week with his teammate Davide Formulo right behind him. David de la Cruz and Michele Scarponi complete the top 10.